Narunga.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker. I rise to support the motion that has been moved in this place by the Premier that, in summary, expresses our support for those affected by the bushfires that have plagued our state in recent times, and also wishes them well in the recovery efforts that are ongoing around the state, including in my electorate down at Yorktown near Edithburgh, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker. This is an important motion that records the sorrow and support we have for families and communities within communities which result in lives lost, and for all those who have suffered and lost homes, property, personal possessions as a result of the bushfires across the state as part of this summer season. There's also, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, an important motion that rightfully praises the work of firefighters, emergency services, volunteers and community members, and I have stated in this place before that no praise can be high enough for the firefighters, volunteer and paid, who displayed inspiring bravery and commitment to the task of containing fires and saving lives and property. Last month, on 14 Feb, I was pleased to again visit Yorktown for a post-fire community check-in gathering, which provided another valuable chance to say hello and check in with everyone and see how the recovery from the ferocious fires in late November in that area of the Narunga electorate is going. As I stated in Parliament in my recent address and reply speech, the fires on SYP in late November that burned more than 5,000 hectares across the 61-kilometre front were just the start of a devastating bushfire season of fires of unprecedented scale that went on to burn some 12 million hectares across the nation, taking some 2 months and flooding rains in the eastern states to finally extinguish. The news on 6 February that finally, nationally, all fires were declared contained was welcome indeed and a great relief. Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, whatever the size of the bushfires, the devastation is real for all, as is the shock and ongoing stress in the recovery period that stretches ahead for so many communities around our nation, as I said, including communities on the Yorke Peninsula. The 14th of February community event at Yorktown highlighted the ongoing impacts being faced on the road to recovering from what is a significant trauma felt by everyone, individuals and families and landowners who have lost much and are soldiering on with the assistance of a great many people. The powerful rallying of communities of people digging in to help others has been staggering and inspiring, as has been the amazing efforts to raise funds for various appeals. And I commend the Yorktown Recovery Centre Coordinator Deb Richardson for all of her work done well over the past 3 months, and the local Bushfire Recovery Committee, which is chaired by Deb and features wonderful local contributions from people across the fireground, from Yorktown all the way up to the Maitland fire. There was a number of fires that burned on the peninsula during that period, and most are represented on that committee. As I said, I congratulate that committee for having distributed already over $60,000 of donations raised locally. Amazingly, since I last spoke of this topic in this place only some 3 weeks ago, the tally of local funds has risen by an extra $30,000 up to in excess of $90,000, which is an amazing local effort and a show of collaborative support. A special moment at the February 14 community check-in at Yorktown was the presentation to the Recovery Committee by 7 or 8 year old Amali Ziyech of Kadina, who, wanting to do whatever she could to assist the cause, collected bottles and cans and created a GoFundMe page to raise funds for people affected by the fire. Her father, Damien, tells a story of him sitting at home watching the news and Amali turning around and asking what she could do to help, and then, as a family, they came up with this idea to help. Through that initiative developed by her family and Amali, and the hard work that she put into it, she was able to present a cheque of $825, a wonderful, commendable effort to help others at such a young age. It was wonderful to be there on hand to see the cheque being handed over and see the wonderful fake cheque that the committee had prepared for Amali as part of the presentation. There was a real sense of occasion about the moment, and it was really pleasing to see the smile on her face. And the whole family had travelled down. Her siblings, her parents and her grandparents were all there to see her present this wonderful large fake cheque to the Recovery Committee, and the applause that greeted her upon doing so from the locals down there at Yorktown, who have been so appreciative of every effort, but were particularly appreciative of such a young person raising such a significant amount of money for their efforts. It was really an uplifting moment and really pleasing to be a part of it. Also at the community gathering, there were important information displays from PIRSA, the Department of Environment and Water, CFS, SA Health, the Salvation Army and Red Cross. as well as updates from Deb and from York Peninsula Council Mayor Darren Braund, myself, and myself. All important information, not just for those that were there, but those who will continue to be impacted by fires, but for those there seeking information on how they can best assist those who have. So many across the SYP community and across the peninsula as a whole have been pitching in where they can, and I have felt privileged to witness that firsthand. Having already described in this House the massive efforts of some 53 CFS brigades who flocked to Yorktown on 20 and 21st November to stop the catastrophe that was unfolding, I won't be too repetitive. Rightfully, so much has been said about the firefighting assistance, the bravery, the exhausting effort and the volunteer spirit already, and frankly it's been believable, and as I've already said, no praise is enough for these wonderful people, both volunteer and paid. I will instead use this brief time that I have to give focus on recovery efforts underway, government assistance and how important assessments are of how we can improve the management of such emergencies moving forward. With the local recovery coordinator, Deb Richardson, appointed within 72 hours of the Yorktown fire, and a recovery centre that remains open after actively assisting people to this day, 3 months after the fire was contained, I commend those who ensured the assistance from the Department of Human Services was swiftly coordinated. With the initial personal hardships grants made available the day after the fires, such wonderful promptness in getting those grants out to the people that needed them so drastically. I advise that 374 of these initial emergency grants were distributed to people forced to evacuate at Yorktown and Edithburgh, totalling over $175,000. That's a wonderful effort and, as I said, pleasing to see that distributed and made available so quickly to those people that needed it at that time, and it was wonderful that they could have that help in such a devastating instance. Next to occur quickly was the Red Cross and Blaze Aid arriving. The latter, Blaze Aid, only just leaving the area on 23 February after continuously helping farmers with fencing for 3 months. And having been a volunteer for 1 day only down there by myself, Mr Acting Speaker, I'd just like to take a moment to properly acknowledge the contribution they made to the recovery effort. Over that 3 months down there, over 25 fire-affected properties with 255 volunteers, Blaze Aid were able to rip out 253 kilometres of burnt fence, an extraordinary achievement, and doing perhaps the most important job in removing some of the damage that can play on the minds of those farmers who have lost it all. It's difficult to go out and see your kilometres of fencing that are laying on the ground or burnt to a crisp, and for those people to get out there and remove that and take it away from the front of mind of the farmers is a wonderful thing. And 253 kilometres is an extraordinary length of fencing. But not only that, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, they also installed 162 kilometres of replacement fencing. Extraordinary effort, and I'd like to take this opportunity to commend every single one of the 255 volunteers that went down there and contributed some of their time. The Mayor, Darren Braund, was kind enough to host the Blaze Aid camp, and for those of us that have volunteered for Blaze Aid before, we were well aware of the fame of the camps and the camaraderie and the community that they experienced. But the Mayor, Darren Braund, hosted the Blaze Aid camp on the grounds of his church at Edithburgh, and there was a wonderful array of caravans and people there for the entire 3 months. And the Mayor made available to them all the facilities of the church, the meeting rooms, the bathrooms, the kitchen area, the mess hall. So it was a wonderful show of support from the Mayor and the contribution he made, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank him for all the facilitation work that he did to make Blaze Aid happen. Similarly, Karen and Graham Warren were the conveners, the local conveners of the Blaze Aid camp, and every morning made sure that people had lunch ready to go out. There were teams of eight going to particular spots. The love was shared equally around all those 25 affected properties, and they did a mountain of work over the entire 3 months, and I'll bet that Karen is sleeping well finally after being up before everyone else and being the last one there every night as well. So thank you very much to Mayor Darren Braund, and thank you very much to Karen and Graham Warren for the work they did in helping Blaze Aid do such wonderful service down there on the fireground. Following the arrival of Red Cross and Blaze Aid came the disaster recovery payments and income support from the federal government and jointly funded with state government initiatives. Later came the tax and fee relief measures made available by the state government, which have been welcome, as has been the special considerations from the Valuer General, working with the State Recovery Office and Land Services SA. Fees waived to replace lost documents like driver's licences and births, deaths and marriages certificates, legal advice, waste management assistance and financial assistance for the Yorke Peninsula Council. The Volunteer Firefighters Financial Support Program has also been appreciated, being compensation for volunteer firefighters who have put extended time into volunteering this current fire season and have incurred financial cost doing so. I can attest too that also well received has been the state government's announcement last week of the availability of concessional loans to assist small businesses, primary producers and non-profit organisations impacted by the bushfires on Kangaroo Island and at Cuddly Creek, and at Kylara in the southeast and at Yorktown on the peninsula. To further assist in the rebuild and to importantly ensure that small business have every chance of continuing to operate while the region recovers. These loans of up to $500,000 are available to help businesses such as tourism operators restore and replace assets and property that have been significantly damaged in the fires. And they also cover costs including salaries, creditors, rent and rates. This is an important scheme needed to assist small businesses in regional areas to stay in local communities and, crucially, continue to operate and employ local people. As stated by the Treasurer when announcing the concessional loans scheme, small businesses and primary producers are the backbone of our regional economies, and the government is pleased to be able to support them as they get back on their feet in the wake of the devastating bushfires. I am pleased too to announce that the Yorke Peninsula Council has qualified to receive $200,000 from the National Bushfire Recovery Agency Fund. This money is very much needed to assist Council to restore the extensive infrastructure damaged or destroyed by the fires on the Yorke Peninsula, where homes were destroyed along with more than $1.7 million worth of crop and livestock. For info in terms of area losses across the YP Council, in November and December, the Price Fire burned 321 hectares, the Yorktown Fire 5,017 hectares, and the fire at Maitland on 20 December burned another 2,472 hectares, amounting to an affected area of almost 8,000 hectares. These fire events have left YP Council with a significant clean-up bill of recovery works, including road repairs and resurfacing, roadside tree cleaning, burn signage and road markers, restoring public spaces, parks and campgrounds, including fencing, picnic tables, landscaping and streetscaping, replacing and installing new concrete firefighting tanks for truck and plane filling at Yorktown and Maitland airstrips, erosion control rehabilitation and replacing lost habitat and roadside vegetation corridors and 50 kilometres of roadside. I expect the $200,000 allocated will be very quickly spent, but it is a start. Yorke Peninsula Council area also pleasingly qualified as an eligible LGA area to receive grants of up to $75,000 for farmers and $10,000 for small businesses from the jointly funded Commonwealth and State Disaster Recovery Fund. To address immediate costs of recovery, a fund that importantly does not close until 31 July this year. Under the jointly funded under the jointly funded Disaster Recovery Fund arrangements, there have been multiple assistance grants made available. There are re-establishment grants of up to $10,000 for the uninsured to re-establish homes, recovery grants of up to $50,000 for small businesses to assist with clean-up and restoration, and recovery grants for eligible primary producers, as well as other assistance available from the SA Bushfire Appeal and Red Cross. Importantly too, it is information and assistance available in relation to mental health services, which will be a pressing issue in the months and years ahead. I recognise great need to assist people experiencing the grief and stress that naturally comes with a disaster like the bushfire, and assistance with native vegetation and livestock, legal advice and mediation services if required. At the 14th of February Yorktown Fire Update Gathering, I also took the opportunity to strongly encourage participation in the underway independent review into the 2019-20 bushfire season thus far, announced by the Premier on 28 January. It is hoped many with first-hand experience on the ground experience of the fire events, including CFS and all emergency services and responders, farmers, community members impacted, organisation leaders, as many as possible, make submissions. Such feedback is vitally important from the very people on the ground who experienced the emergency. The review's specific terms of reference are valid and include identification of resource and equipment gaps, how to reduce ignitions, ideas to improve response actions and warning systems, as well as much more. I've had many issues raised with me from locals and from farmers on KI, whom I spoke to when I visited there, including ways to improve communication procedures, CFS vehicle tracking technology and the need for tracking capacity, fire breaks management, assistance for fodder donors, water access and replenishment, and grants criteria and their rollout. And all such information is relevant to the independent review to which submissions close on 22 March. I'd like to also commend the RAA on their regional safety grants program and their recent allocations. In particular, I note the York Valley and Northern York CFS groups and Yorktown CFS being among the 15 worthy organisations announced as successful applicants. I'm advised these local CFS personnel will use their allocations to purchase safety equipment, thermal cameras that detect flare-ups and identify hotspots, and a mobile signal booster, all vital assets when it comes to fighting fires. Such support and provision of assets is vital, and I commend, again, the RAA on this initiative. Just as I am pleased the Marshall Liberal Government well recognises the need for such vital support and is offering multiple programs that have been welcomed and are assisting in the recovery from the bushfire here in SA. Finally, on behalf of all the people who live and work in the Narungga electorate, I thank all across the electorate who rallied at the height of the emergency. And are continuing to work hard in recovery and who are doing all they can to help out many locals impacted. A huge task lies ahead, but together we will recover. I'd like to pay tribute to you all and commend this motion, the important motion that it is, to the House.
The member for Ramsay.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. I rise today to reflect on the tragic bushfire events that have occurred in South